Okay, in this lesson, we are continuing to do some ordering, but we're going to start throwing in more real-world words, and we're also going to look at tables, which isn't really different. It's just a different way to organize it. So remember, if you can't print out your note template, please make sure that you are writing this down in your notebook. So the first thing I want to talk about is some different words that mean less than, greater than, least to greatest. Okay? So one example of a different word that might mean least is the word shortest. Because we know if we're talking about the shortest person or the shortest way to drive somewhere, we're talking about the lowest or the least number. And then the opposite of that would be the longest, right? Because that's obviously going to be a larger number. Another word, if we're running a race, would we want, what would least be? Would it be the fastest or the slowest? That's a little tricky, and we've actually seen these words before on a test question. So when we're running, the smallest number is actually the fastest. And that sometimes I think that's a little confusing. And then the greatest number would be whoever had the largest, or the slowest would be whoever had the larger number. So in this case, having a big number isn't a good thing, right? You're not going to win the race if you have the biggest number. Okay, obviously another word is less. If I say which one is less or who completed less, that would be least. And more would be greatest. Some other words I was thinking about, if we're weighing something or maybe describing something, thinnest, most thin, I'm not sure how you would say that, or fattest, the most fat might be a better way to say it. I'm not sure if that's proper English there. If we're talking about temperatures, the smaller the number it is, the colder it is, right? So this would be coldest for the smallest number. And then obviously the higher the number, it would be hotter, the hottest, the most hot. There are a couple words that could be what I've called situational words. So meaning depending on the situation. So for example, if I said, what is the best? Well, that could depend on what we're talking about. If we're running a race, the best is the lowest time. But if we're grading a test, the best is the highest number. So we have to be careful with the words best and with the words worst, because that just depends on what we're talking about. There are lots and lots of other words, and if you come across more words as we work, please make sure we add them to our list. Okay, so let's look at this example. It says the table shows the free throw statistics for 4 players at Kent Middle School's basketball team. And it's asking us who had the best free throw statistics and who had the worst. So let's talk about that for a second. If we're talking about free throws, and those of you who love basketball can probably relate to this, if we have the best free throw statistic, we want that to be the greatest or the highest number. You know, I don't want to send somebody to the free throw line who could only shoot 25% of their free throws. That would be terrible. We're not going to win the game. And in this case, the worst would mean the least for the smallest number. Okay? Okay, so remember, just like we've been doing, we still have to change all of our numbers to the same form. And we talked about that decimals is the easiest form. So when it says that Jack shot 18 out of 39, we can write that as a fraction, 18 over 39, and we should know by now how to change that to a decimal. We're going to type in 18 divided by 39 into your calculator. And I'm not showing mine because at this point I think you should be able to type in these to yourself. And that would give me 0.46. Henry, 54%. We can quickly change that to a decimal, if you remember, by moving it 2 places to the left. Or I've also been talking to you about putting this over 100. Percents are always over 100. And so Henry shoots 50.54. Okay, let's change Terrell to a decimal by dividing. 17 divided by 24. And this is going to be a little bit longer decimal. I'm going to go ahead and just list 3 places. And then Riley, same thing as Jack. We're going to do 9 divided by 23, which comes out to 0.39. Okay, so who had the best free throw statistic? Who had the greatest number? Okay, I hope you're thinking Terrell. That would be like 70 cents or 71 cents. So Terrell had the best. That's the greatest. Who had the worst? Which one is the smallest number? And that was Riley. Okay, so that's just an example. And we use numbers to compare and order all the time in real life. Super important. Okay, this next one. Paul completed 65 cents of a science fair project. Sam completed 17/24 of a science fair project. Who completed more? So again, more, if we look back at our list, I hope that makes sense that more means the greatest. Okay, and as you see me circling things and underlining things, especially in word problems, I want you to be doing that too. That's really important to make sure that we don't miss what we're trying to find out. Okay, so we've got Paul, who was 65%. So we need to change that to a decimal. Move the decimal 2 places to the left, or do 65 over 100. And so that's going to be 0.65. Okay. And then we've got Sam, who completed 17/24. So we need to do 17 divided by 24. And we actually did that up above in the previous problem. And we get 0.708. So which guy completed more? Which number is greater? Okay, I hope you said Sam, because again, this is like 71-ish cents, 70 cents. This is like 65 cents. So Sam completed more. Okay, make sure that you have your notes in a secure spot in your notebook, in your binder, in a folder, something so that you can refer back to this and go on to the next thing in your page.